What is it going on, Misfits family? Welcome back to another week here on the Misfits. It's the Reynolds Sports Report. I'm your host, Jude Reynolds Ocanas. And well, the sports world might be dead with games going on, but the NBA free agency is certainly picking up. And we're going to get into that in a second. But it's the first time that we're doing something cool here on the Reynolds Sports Report. I'm bringing on not just a special guest, but a great friend here onto the Reynolds Sports Report. First, and probably not the last time, I'm going to welcome Robert Westermann out of USC Annenberg to join me along the show. Robert, welcome. First of all, just give yourself a little bit of an introduction. Who are you? What do you do? Where are you right now?
Yeah, well, first of all, dude, thanks for having me. I'm currently in the Orlando area, pursuing some work opportunities down here. But yeah, I'm a rising senior at USC. Hoping to pursue something in sports journalism, hopefully. But I got to tell you, I saw the F1 movie last night.
Really?
And we're going to get into some other sports today, but I got to say, I might start watching some F1, man.
Really? It was that good?
It was good. It was good. I've gotten into movies since I've been down here, and I got to tell you, man, it inspired me to become a fan. I know that the F1 fan base may not be the biggest, but they are into it.
No, they're certainly into it. Yeah, I mean, it's Brad Pitt. I'm blanking on the other actor's name. Actually, it's fine. I had someone else tell me like the movie was really good too. So I guess I got to check it out. Do you guys have an AMC down there? Are you going to an AMC to watch?
I'm at Regal.
Okay. Anyway, appreciate you joining on. You know, there's a lot of craziness happening right now, and especially in the basketball world. And you know, being right now, I'm currently in Los Angeles. You know, you're out there in Orlando right now. LeBron James is always going to be the center of attention when it comes to a big move. And so recently, or I should say on Sunday, he just opted into his $52.6 million player option, which keeps him now with the Lakers. He's now going to enter his 8th season with the Lakers. Last season, averaged 24 points per game, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, had 51, 37, 78 splits. But this comes at an interesting time for the Lakers, right? Because they just traded for Luka Doncic, who they're looking as, you know, the future, right? Like that is who we are going to build around. And you have a 40-year-old LeBron James, who I just read you his numbers, averaging close to what is a near triple-double. And he's still a productive guy. But I'll read you this comment right here by Rich Paul. It comes from The Athletic, and it was released as Rich Paul said on Sunday. He said, LeBron knows the Lakers are building for the future, and he also wants to compete for championships. We understand the difficulty in winning while preparing for the future. We want to evaluate what's best for LeBron at this stage in his life and career. He wants to make every season he has left count. And the Lakers understand that, are supportive, and want what's best for him. First of all, what is that like? You listen to that quote, right? And what does that translate for you and like what LeBron James wants out of his last year with the Lakers, or potentially more years with the Lakers?
Yeah, it sounds to me like LeBron wants to just take care of his family, of himself, man. I mean, at the end of the day, he's a person, you know. I mean, yeah, he's LeBron. He's a little bit of than your average person, but yeah. I think at the end of the day, you know, he is 40. This will now be yet another season in Los Angeles. This is where he wants to be. And he's probably pretty excited. I think he might be a little excited for next season. They've got Luka. I think they're looking okay to get to where they were last season, if not make an even better run. And, you know, he might have just a last gasp of energy, make that extra effort.
Well, it would kind of be graceful to retire on year 23 as he wears number 23 jersey. So, I mean, yeah, you do talk about it, right? Like the Lakers, they were 50-32 last year, 3rd in the Western Conference. I agree. I think he enjoys his time in Los Angeles. I also think it helps that his son, Bronny James, is sitting on the bench. So he has that father-son duo that they've now kept for the whole time. But I have to say, I look at it and say, I read this and say he wants to compete for championships. If he really wanted to compete for championships, and if he wanted to compete for championships with the Los Angeles Lakers, he should have not taken the player option, taken a cheaper deal, so it would have allowed the Lakers to go and sign some bigger name free agents to actually build a roster around this team. Because to be quite frank, Robert, this team is not a championship level team. I mean, I know we've both watched the finals this year. We've seen just the competition in the Western Conference. Do you think even with a LeBron James and a Luka at this point, like, can they compete with teams like the Timberwolves, the Thunder? You still have the Nuggets. You know, the Clippers have made noise, but, you know, being in LA, the Clippers are never going to make true noise in the playoffs. But you have all of these teams, right, like that are continuously also getting younger more athletic. Do you really think this Lakers team with just Luka and LeBron and a few other role players can really compete in the West?
I don't. There's a slim chance, of course. I mean, Luka could have a career. Somehow he could average more points than he already is. But
yeah.
I think you're right. The youth eventually overcomes. And we're going to get into the sport later, but tennis is an example. You've got these youngsters that are just unstoppable.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to youth in the Western Conference, that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, certainly. So it'll be interesting to see what the Lakers do. You know, the free agency is just opening up. I know I'm hearing rumblings of potentially DeAndre Ayton potentially coming to the Lakers on a free agency deal. I know that the Portland Trailblazers bought out his deal. I kind of want to move to another subject. And it's funny because I think we had this conversation a few months past just about the WNBA as a whole. So the WNBA just announced today that they are adding 3 more teams to now put up the league total to 18 teams. Now, to be clear, there's only 13 teams currently playing in the WNBA in 2025. They have 2 expansion teams coming in 2026, which is going to be Toronto and Portland. But today they announced that there's going to be 3 more teams. So Cleveland's going to get a team in 2028. Detroit's going to get a team in 2029. And Philadelphia is going to get a team in 2030. This now puts, like I said, 18 teams. When you heard this news, and look, the WNBA every year, and I'm just going to, let's be honest, since Caitlin Clark has arrived on the scene in the WNBA worn in Indiana Fever jersey, there's obviously been more attention, right? You have more primetime hours dedicated to people talking about the WNBA. Obviously, revenue has moved up. Player salaries have moved up. But is it a little too fast right now for the WNBA to keep expanding, even though the interest has risen?
I don't. I think they should keep shooting for the moon. I think they should ride this wave, and even if it is going to end, they should ride it for as long as they can. I think actually in my hometown of Richmond, we have the Kickers, a USL team, and the club decided to add a women's team a couple of seasons ago, and they have become immensely popular. So I think that they should ride the wave as long as they can. And I think the thing is that they could. These are insanely talented athletes. I mean, they can flat out play, and that's what fans want to see. I think at the end of the day, they don't care anything else. They just want to see people that can play.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree too. I think my problem with this is, look, it's great to have expansion teams, and I'm totally on your pace of let's ride the wave. But they now have 5 teams kind of on deck waiting to come play in the WNBA. I think it would have been smart to say, you know what, let's see how Toronto does. Let's see how Portland does as organizations. Those are also kind of those middle team markets where you have, I know Philadelphia can somewhat be a bigger market just because they have bigger names on the Sixers and the Eagles just with their success, but it's not as big as a market of New York, LA, or Chicago. So I would have personally seen how maybe a Portland and Toronto would have done before jumping. And I get it. I'm all for riding the wave. I'm just a little cautious to say you don't want to stretch yourself too thin to the point where it's like, now we can't go back.
I think that's a good point. But I think by staggering it year by year, I think they're sort of giving a little bit of leeway. Sure, a year, really, what is a year in the long term, right? But at the end of the day, I think that, they're only going to 18 teams. That's not that crazy. I mean, 13 was very small to begin with. I think going to 18 is not that drastic. And again, we're not going to see those 18 teams fully until 2030. That's 5 years. Yeah. Again, long term, right? Long term, 1 year. What does 1 year really mean? But I do think the staggering is going to help with that.
Yeah, and that's completely fair. And I'll say this. It's not like they're not being backed by some good people. I mean, Cleveland is going to be backed by Dan Gilbert, who's the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers. He has a huge enterprise. Detroit's going to be owned by pretty much the owners of the Detroit Pistons. So the money is there. And so I know that like these teams are going to have a good foundation to start. But like I said, I'm a little cautious when you're adding this many teams. And granted, like the success has been only really 2-3 years of true revenue growth, salary growth. I'm just a little cautious, but I agree. I think you have to take advantage, because if you don't take advantage now, then who's really going to think about it in 2-3 years? So moving forward, and I want to change the pace. We've been talking sports, we're talking basketball, but we got to let the people know, Robert, because I've talked about it on my show before. I was, obviously in Rome, and Robert was right there with me. We spent 5 months in Rome. We traveled across Europe. And now that we're back, it's June 30th. I have to say, Robert, it's a little wild. It's been pretty much now coming up on 2 months since we've been away. And to be honest, like there's still part of me, like I'll look at old videos or I'll listen to a song and be like, damn, really missing Italy right now. Like there's those moments where it's like you didn't get that. So I'm curious for you now that you've kind of, you're obviously in an internship, you're kind of living in Orlando for the first time. You're just now a whole nother life. What have kind of been lessons for you that you've taken from those 5 months being in Rome or just being in Europe as a whole that you brought back to the States?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I will say the day I got back, I went to Target and it was like a kid coming down the steps on Christmas morning. I was like ecstatic. It's a feeling that it was, anyway, say less. I think in terms of lessons from abroad, my point of bringing up that Target experience is that one thing I learned is that sometimes less is more. I think that's one thing that I learned, especially our attachment with material things. And then on the sports side, there's nothing like European soccer. I mean, me and you, we were in Stadio Olimpico a couple times. You went to a handful of games. I went to a couple others. I mean, it's just unreal. European soccer fan bases over there. So those are a couple of things that I will say. I have not had pasta. I've not had pasta since I've been back. I don't know about you, but
no, it's funny you mentioned that. My dad came in town from Northern California for a weekend, and I will say before I obviously went to Italy, like Italian food was like the cuisine of choice if we were going to a restaurant. But every time I've been asked, like, oh, like let's go have dinner, I'm like, I can't do Italian. I can't do it. I instantly cut it off. I'm like, let's have some Mexican or literally any other part of the world type of cuisine. So I feel you. I will say I've had pasta, but not anything close to Italy. It's pretty much just cook it up.
No carbonara. No
carbonara. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. But we had this. It was actually one of the first conversations we had. We were sitting at Dino Express. And it was probably like 1 month in. And I think, to be honest, the one thing I've really taken back, I'm living here in a sublease. I have a bunch of like new roommates, people that are, there's actually one guy, in fact, from UVA, another guy from, UNLV, and then there's someone from USC. And these are people that I've never really been in the same circle as. And I think that putting the phone down and just embracing like new people and new conversation has honestly been one of like the biggest things for me I've taken away from my lessons abroad. But also I agree with you. Less is more, right? Like, just having, almost your regimen, but like also embracing not just like, okay, I need like the expensive shoes, but like enjoying like the small times with people and like not, it doesn't have to be all the time. So yeah, I think putting the phone down has kind of been honestly the main thing for me. It's so easy to like get stuck in reels and like, I mean, hey, I'm not gonna lie. I still do it at times. You still gotta have your break at times. But I think honestly, like the truth, like, and it's cliche to say, but Europe, it is more about the connections. And I have realized that since being back, of like trying to foster connections with people that I'm not going to run in the same paths with maybe my whole life, but just having that experience. But staying on the international side, Robert, and you're someone who is very tapped into when it comes into kind of those niche sports. I would say I mean, they're still mainstream in a sense, but you talk about one tournament that is up right now. We just got first round pretty much underway, and that's Wimbloden. One of the 4 Grand Slams in tennis that's taking place pretty much between June 23rd and July 13th. I'm pretty sure is the time reference. And for someone that has kind of been more tapped into the scene, can you explain to someone there is obviously 4 Grand Slams, but what makes Wimbloden so special compared to the other 3?
Well, you mentioned that I sort of follow these niche sports pretty closely, and those are golf and tennis. And the reason why these sports have such great followers and people stick to them for so long is the history. And the reason why Wimbledon stands out is because it's the oldest slam in tennis. And it's just sort of the build-up to it. It's like the Masters. It's this elegant tournament with these lush courses, and it's played at the same place, and it's grass and beautiful, and it's just the way it presents itself. That's the reason why it stands out. And, at Wimbledon, compared to other tournaments, all the players have to wear all white. It's just sort of the characteristics and the way it presents itself that makes it stand out so much. And we already had one scare today. Carlos Alcaraz scraped away in a 5-set match. Daniel Medvedev is already eliminated. Francis Tiafoe, an American, advanced. American, I think, can maybe make a run this year, but I'll tell you what, it will be beyond difficult. Based on that French Open final that we saw, I would never bet against Alcaraz or Sinner ever.
And he's coming into this winning already the last two of Wimbledon, so he's looking for the three-peat. Well, you're taking my job, Robert. I was going to intro the next set, but you already took my job. So I mean, who do you got? I mean, I know that there's a lot of conversations to be had, but at the end of the day, is Alcaraz poised for a three-peat, or you're meant to Tiafoe, the American? Who do you have? You know what? I'll do this. Give yourself a little bit more tapped in. Who do you have, and then who's kind of a dark horse that you could see potentially, sneaking in and winning it all?
It's just so hard to bet against Sinner and Alcaraz, but I gotta say, I think I'm gonna go with Sinner this time around, just because based on that French Open, I honestly, it's sort of, not exact, but it's sort of like where we're in this phase where it's like, all right, Sinner, Alcaraz, Sinner, Alcaraz. Let's just flip between the two for the next few years, and then once their legs burn out, we'll go to somebody else. But in terms of a dark horse, I think honestly, an American can maybe rise up. I think Taylor Fritz had an early exit at the French Open. He, I think, could be someone that can maybe make a run, be a sort of a dark horse. He's obviously more of a top seed. But again, I think in tennis nowadays, we're seeing such a hierarchy between the 1 and the 2 that anything outside of it could really be considered a dark horse.
Yeah. Well, I can't pick against you. I actually like Sinner too. I wrote it down even before the show. I just like Sinner, and you already set it up. I mean, what we saw in the Paris Grand Slam, I mean, to be honest, I didn't get an opportunity to truly watch the whole entire match, but just even the highlights alone of that match, you talk about Alcaraz coming down after down 2 sets. I mean, to me, and I haven't even watched that much tennis. It was probably one of the greatest matches of tennis I've ever watched. Like in my limit, I mean, it was back and it's so hard because it's like, man, like at second place, you feel even more defeated after losing a final like that. But I have to go Sinner. I know he's not his specialty isn't grass, and that's kind of the one, obviously Wimbledon is on grass. But look, I look at it, he's out for vengeance. I mean, if there's anyone that wants it more, like I don't know if there's anyone that wants it more than Sinner, especially if it's Alcaraz Sinner in the final. I agree with you, Robert. It's Sinner. But it'd be cool. Do you know the last time an American has won Wimbledon?
Long time.
Yeah.
Long time.
Yeah. Just like any soccer championship going on. But thank you so much for Robert joining us. This was an absolute pleasure. This obviously you should feel honored, just not because you are the also first guest that I've had on this show. I haven't had a guest, and it was a special one too.
It was a privilege. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah. And hey, let the people know where they can find you on Instagram, like kind of what do you have upcoming?
Yeah, find me on Robert Westermann Media, my Instagram, and then also my website, robertwestermann.com.
And guys, he takes the best sports photos you will ever see. I'm not biased because he also goes to USC, but the man knows how to work a camera. I'll tell you that. He knows how to work a camera. But I've been Jude Reynolds Ocanas here on the Reynolds Sports Report. Appreciate you guys tuning in on Monday. And trust me, with NBA free agency, we're going to have a lot more to talk about on Thursday. But as always, I will see you guys next time. Peace out.